and Americans, I think most people go berserk. When it's kept by two corporations in Arkansas, and they sell it at night to the FBI, nobody says a word. The difference now between a private sector data bank and an FBI is one click and one check. So we need a whole new way to think about it, which does not say the First Amendment applies to the public sector, but the private sector can do what they want. That requires a major, major normative and legal change, which we haven't even begun to engage in.
Next question.
Yes, just a comment first is that most of the collection of data by companies is for economic gain, and it would be great if it was, the default was opt-out rather than opt-in. Unfortunately, it's the other way around.
Do you mean the other way?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, opt-in
Yes.
rather than opt-out. The question I have really is, the Patriot Act is being reviewed now by Congress, and there may be some changes to it, maybe not. Could you talk about the political climate that you see of where that's going to go in the next month or so?
I'll try to give a brief answer. I mean,
we have 5 minutes. So.
Yeah. So the current provisions, the key provisions, expire June 1st. And Congress is trying to get something done before that debate. Senator Leahy, Congressman Sensenbrenner, I think have a very good proposal. In answer to Amitai's point, one of the goals that we've pursued at EPIC is to avoid zero-sum outcomes. I mean, law enforcement has real concerns, as do the privacy advocates. And the question is, how do you get a good result in the context of the legislative process? Our view is that one of the best ways to get a good result is more transparency, more accountability, which basically says, yes, government needs those tools to protect the public, but they need to be accountable about how they use them. So to the extent that we can get support for more accountable use of the tools, I think we'll end up with a better bill. And I think there is support for it, but of course, you know, who knows what will happen.
And I think this might be the last question here.
To start off with, I'm a technologist, so I'd like to put a few things on the floor and get your thoughts on it. One is, I think in today's domain, privacy, as we think about it, is a fool's paradise. Because if we are sitting at our machine, if we're typing away, as Jim Dwyer pointed out, you can be entering content. If you choose not to enter it, you just type it out. It's accessed anyway. So the point is not necessarily what does the intended end user do with it, it's who else has access to it en route. And as such, if I'm creating things at home on my machine, the very first thing I do is shut off the RF so that my machine is not talking to the web, all right? I'm talking to my machine, but I'm not broadcasting it. So I don't have to worry about somebody else picking up my thoughts. To take that to another extreme, we all know that there is voice recognition software. And consequently, if I'm sitting in my room having a detailed conversation with someone, and I say, I don't have to worry about that. I'm not on the machine now. Well, effectively, if there's voice recognition content there, it can easily take that conversation and transmit it onto the web.
Right, so let me just very quickly answer you. I mean, first of all, even your safeguards won't work unless your home is tempest tested. You can still get the information off the keyboard. But the reason for this book is actually a response to the dictum of a very famous technologist, Thomas Edison, who simply said, what man creates with his hand, he should control with his head. And we need to think about the use of these technologies over the long term, not just as consumers, but as citizens, as people participating in a democratic government. I think we do have the ability to control the use of these technologies, and one of the tests of our ability will be whether we can safeguard privacy.
I agree with that. Effectively, I think we're in a fool's paradise if we don't acknowledge the fact that everything that our machine has access to, we have just, if you will, to a degree, compromised. And I think that's a two-way stream. Mark,
we're like you know, in Tom Sawyer, everybody sees him painting the fence, and they would give him a nickel or a penny so they could pay. They want to pay him to paint his work, do his work for him. And that's what we're doing with our content on the internet. We're painting Zuckerberg and Google's fences for them with our stuff. And so like the young
That's good, Jim.
technologists
I
I
like
wrote
that.
about in here are trying to build, and there's a lot of these young folks around who are trying to build better mousetraps that don't catch our tails all the time. And I'm very optimistic that that's going to happen. Maybe in 10, 20 years, we're going to have a much more productive relationship, thanks to people like these kids.
I'm just going to add one sentence to that.
I'll tell you, I'm sorry, but we do have to end, especially on that. I appreciate everybody coming. I do want to direct you right out that door so you could purchase these gentlemen's books and get their signature. So please head out there, right to the activity building. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
We have one more panel remaining, live from the Annapolis Book Festival in Maryland. Retired Army Lieutenant Colonel John Noggle and journalist James Risen will discuss the war on terror in just a few moments. We'll be right back. C-SPAN 2 providing live coverage of the U.S. Senate floor proceedings and key public